November 1919. In a Silesian sanatorium, a patient suffering from tuberculosis is receiving treatment. He has only 4 years left to live, and even physically, he is in terrible shape. Recently, he broke off a relationship with his second lover, leaving him mentally distressed as well. He spent his days in utter despair, trapped in a cramped, chaotic room. One evening, the man sits beside the window. Twilight has fallen, and a chilling wind blows outside. Suddenly, an idea strikes him. He picks up paper and pen and begins to write a letter. The opening goes like this. Dear Father, a few days ago you asked me why I am so afraid of you. I couldn't give you a quick answer. Partly because of your fear, and partly because this fear is so vast that I cannot fully explain it. In this letter, I try to answer your question, though I warn you, the answer may never be complete. Even as I write, my long-held fear slows my pen. The scope of my fear is so large that writing it all down is an arduous task. As he writes, he notices the letter is growing longer. Still, he continues, seeing this as his final opportunity to defend himself in front of his father. Eventually, he finishes the letter, but he lacks the courage to send it directly to his father. Instead, he makes 2 copies, sending one to his mother, asking her to deliver it. Due to various circumstances, she is unable to do so. He sends the other copy, along with many of his other writings, to his only friend, asking him to burn everything. But his friend begins to read everything. In a daze, he decides not to burn the writings, but to arrange for them to be published. And once published, the context changes. A man who lacked confidence in his own work becomes, after his death, a suddenly celebrated writer, both acclaimed and critiqued. By now, you may have guessed I am talking about Franz Kafka, the writer who left the world at the age of 40, often called the pioneer of modernist literature. But did he write much? 3 unfinished novels, a few short stories, some letters and diaries. That's it. Yet, Kafka has become a benchmark for modern literature. Even today, about a third of Nobel laureates openly acknowledge Kafka's influence on their work. After Shakespeare, no other writer has been analyzed and debated as extensively as Kafka. By the mid-1990s, over 100,000 scholarly works had already been written about him. In his writings, Kafka repeatedly explored themes of alienation, existential anxiety, guilt, and absurdity. His complexity even inspired the term Kafkaesque. But why was this man, who turned the world upside down with his writing, so existentially conflicted? Why did he want to burn his works before he died? Were all his writings unreal? And why, even a century later, does Kafka remain so relevant? Much like Jivanaనంద Das, Kafka spent his life in conflict with his own writings. Das never published a single novel or story during his lifetime, hiding them in a black trunk. Similarly, Kafka hid most of his writings in a drawer. He doubted his work. Many pieces were unfinished, like the novel The Trial. When discussing Kafka, this novel often comes up first. Its protagonist, Joseph K., is a naive banker who wakes one morning to find 2 officers at his bedside declaring, "You are under arrest." Joseph doesn't know what his crime is, only that he has been arrested. Oddly, he is not taken anywhere. He can continue his life normally, though he is told his trial will begin soon. What trial? When it will start? He is given no answers. Joseph walks through a fog of uncertainty. Gradually, the word trial presses into his mind like a boulder. The pressure grows so intense that he begins to lose his job, despite performing well. The trial explores these themes in depth. Before delving further, let me ask you, can we deny that we, like Joseph, face trials? Life arrives abruptly, just as the officers appeared for Joseph. This is existential crisis, simply put, a crisis of existence. As the Roman Stoic Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This is precisely Joseph's experience. Contemplating the trial, he tortures himself, trapped in existential anxiety. French writer Albert Camus, in The Myth of Sisyphus, suggested that instead of endlessly searching for the meaning of life, one should accept that events around us may have no meaning, no reason. Accepting and moving forward is the only important thing. If Joseph had taken the trial more lightly, without overthinking, his life might have been different. But he didn't. French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre described the gaze of others, the feeling that people around you are constantly watching and judging you. Historian Michel Foucault explains that social structures enforce this constant surveillance. Joseph K. experiences this through ridicule, disapproval, and judgment. His private life turned into public spectacle. This raises another question. From birth, are we forced to navigate endless judgments? Do we ever truly escape the trial of others' scrutiny? In Game of Thrones terms, we all live our lives on trial. And this brings in helplessness, the feeling of having no control. Joseph cannot control when or if his trial will begin. He can only feel regret, frustration, and despair, knowing nothing will change. How much of our life is actually under our control? Kafka explores this. Kafka's work urges acceptance. Life happens, so endure it. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But is this acceptance easy for everyone? Clearly not. That is why Kafka spent his life in a no-man's land between who he wanted to be and who he was. Take the Metamorphosis. Instead of a conventional novel, it reflects Kafka's life. He viewed his relationship with his father as a trial. Emotionless, disciplined, and authoritarian. He never faced his father confidently. His father, Hermann Kafka, had risen from humble beginnings to power and influence, wanting his son to follow suit. But Kafka, frail and thin, only wanted to write. The father showed anger. The son protested through writing. To distract Kafka from writing, he was sent to study law. Yet he still wrote in between his work, producing The Castle, The Trial, The Metamorphosis, and America. These are not mere novels. They are intense, pointed explorations of authority, society, and existential struggle. In The Metamorphosis, we see the protagonist, Gregor Samsa, wake one morning to find he is transformed into a giant insect. His family's reaction is harsh and cruel. His parents and sister change overnight. Gregor realizes his family cannot accept him. Fear transforms love into hatred. This mirrors Kafka's own experiences. His writings are deeply rooted in fear, alienation, and existential crisis. Even The Trial explores helplessness and social judgment. Joseph K. is powerless over his circumstances, constantly under scrutiny. Kafka's themes resonate in contemporary works too. Haruki Murakami's Kafka on the Shore explores similar themes: existential struggle, social norms, and conflict between fate and free will. Gabriel Garcia Marquez credited Kafka's work for inspiring his magic realism. In essence, Kafka created a lens through which absurdity, alienation, and existential anxiety could be understood. His writings remain profoundly relevant because they confront the chaos, fear, and uncertainty of existence head-on. Kafka once wrote, "I advance through this terrifying world, and rather than holding it all inside, it is better to tear it apart, piece by piece." This was his mission. Though many criticized his work as obscure or meaningless, time has revealed Kafka as a master of realism. For example, in 1956, after the Soviet suppression of the Hungarian uprising, philosopher Georgy Lukács was arrested and imprisoned without explanation. Kafka's work echoes these experiences, highlighting a world where events often have no justification, yet individuals must endure and document them. Kafka's realism confronts the absurdity of existence, making him endlessly relevant. Kafka wrote to provoke, to disturb, and to reflect the world's complexity. His universe, alienation, fear, absurdity, helplessness, and existential crisis, resonates universally. As he said, facing the terrifying world, it is better to dissect it than to internalize it. In his brief life, Kafka achieved precisely that, showing us how to navigate existence, fear, and the absurd, leaving a legacy that remains vital, urgent, and haunting, even a century later.